So I'm standing here in a thicket-wide plot. So this was planted in 2009. It's a 50 by 50 meter fenced off area with unrooted cuttings that were planted in here. And yeah, these plants apparently had the fences were knocked down by sable about 4 or 5 years ago, and they were heavily browsed before the fences were replaced. So that might be why the plants are a little bit smaller than expected, but they're doing pretty well for this environment. You can see there's a lot of grass inside and no grass outside the fence, demonstrating that there's very heavy browsing pressure on the outside. You can see the hill slopes there full of spekboom. That's what it should have looked like. That hill slope over there should be full of spekboom, but that's where overbrowsing has removed all of this. One thing that is of interest is that these plants need to be coalescing. That's when the magic happens. At the moment they're growing very upright and off the ground, which means that the water's running past and there's not that trapping that's going on. There are a few plants that do seem to be doing a good job in terms of having this ground cover that's doing trapping. There's one there. You can see a lot of it is growing sideways there. But this, yeah, it would be more handy if it was coalescing sideways. There's a good example there. So we need the skirt. The skirt that spekboom forms, and I suspect that it's got to do with the truncheons that were put in. So these were planted upright truncheons and not a lot of sideways growth, which you might find. I suspect that might have been the original truncheon and then basically sprouted, and it grows very upright instead of creeping sideways. But yeah, this is getting there. Once these plants can coalesce, it'll be fantastic. This landowner has been fantastic because they have gone and added onto this thicket-wide plot and then planted their own plantings. So you can see all of these cuttings over there, but they planted rooted cuttings. They put them in bags and rooted them for a year. I'm just going to zoom through to there. You can see this landowner has also been great in terms of doing erosion control works. But these are the rooted cuttings, apparently rooted for a year in a bag, quite large bags. You can see they needed quite deep holes to be dug to put them in, and they're doing fantastically well. So these have been planted in there about 4 months ago, and yeah, so this should become a beautifully solidified coalesced spekboom felt. Here's an old spekboom that was been browsed down horribly previously because of, continuously browsed down because of all of the kind of heavy herbivory on the outside of this fence. But you can see how it's been released from herbivory. There's all of these red stems looking fantastic. It's an example of how it's being released from herbivory. If we go and look outside the fence, you just don't see any, you just see these bonsai spekboom. Here's another release from herbivory. All that's going on there. If we just go and have a look at that spekboom outside the fence, we'll see what's happening in terms of the bonsaiing. Yeah, look here. You can see none of those red stems. There's more plants there, no red stems whatsoever.